on the order of service may cause you to wonder. It's not, it should. I have so much gray hair, and also with tremors in my hand and foot, that one would naturally expect me to have a sad ending ceremony, or maybe a homegoing ceremony. Certainly not a celebratory beginning ceremony. Certainly not an ordination. Why? Why would I undergo an ordination approaching my mid-70s? Why not 10 years ago when it was expected, offered? Granted, I was not young then, but I am definitely old now. Something was missing back then, for me anyway. Call it a master plan. The world didn't make sense. Surely the powers that be were in the wings, or maybe in the winds, making sure that things would not get too far out of hand. Maybe they were, maybe they still are. But the key that opened the door was the realization that we are God's hands. That calls for a different attitude. The love that I share outwardly is counterfeit unless it stems from a profound love of a self that is also connected to everyone else. If I don't love myself, I'm trying to bring about change with hands that have been estranged, that have estranged themselves from God. A healthy balance, a healthy balance is what it has taken me 7 decades to locate. It is why I am undergoing ordination so late in life. It is also what I would like to briefly talk about today. My definition of healthy balance comes from Black American biblical roots, where it's referred to as Jubilee. It is a balance that has to be reset regularly in order to occur. The love in the balance comes from several sources, but the definition of it I found in a book entitled All About Love by Bell Hooks that I encountered in one of the church's engaged spirituality meetings. Hooks quotes a previously published author to define love as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. All of this brings us back to the Jubilee. The Jubilee idea was so popular amongst enslaved Africans that a whole genre of spirituals, and sometimes spirituals in general, were referred to as Jubilee songs. These were the songs of freedom. They were also love songs, when love is understood as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. I have a prayer that I sing for the love that begins authentically within and travels without. It's based on the spiritual old freedom. And it climbs the spiritual chakras within the singer's body and without, while simultaneously climbing the musical scale. It might be thought of as a community life meditation on spiritual growth without and within. The rhythm comes from the Brazilian martial art, capoeira. Before we will enslave, we'll plant slavery in the grave and go home with a soul that is free. Home giving birth to life, your love shelters, clothes, and feeds, creates life in your rivers and seas. Salt breathes in us your air, drum fires light to heart's desire, dances fires to fly soulfully. Your love sings through our hips and lips, With works and words of stewardship and tears shed for both joys and strife. Come fill our days with light, guide us home on dark at night. Bring us home, feed our soul, may we leave. Before we will enslave, we'll plant slavery in the grave, and go home with a soul that is free. Thank you, Chief. Our society is deep in the destruction of community life now. But our hands are the Creator's hands, so we have to bring the balance back. Or perhaps more accurately, continue the work of establishing the balance. Learn we must, and we shall. The education we receive from the empire overlooks this. It teaches us to hate ourselves, so we will fight in wars. Those are the empire's agendas. We know otherwise. What we are created of keeps asserting itself in different ways. It is the spiritual growth that love nurtures. Telling histories in which wars are not the main event shows this. For instance, 4 years in seminary focused on Black religion, followed by 6 years studying music, focused on Black sacred music, followed by 3 years of independent data analysis and environmental and womanist readings, produced the following historical religious narrative. Excuse me. In the beginning, a war was fought, and then there was the genesis of diverse enslaved people who came together singing folk music, some of which was spiritual. This genesis created Black Americans and the first music to be recognized worldwide as American. Then another war was fought that was followed within a couple of decades by a massive exodus from the empire's lands of slavery, a great migration. A new folk music called the blues arose from Black Americans. It cried for freedom so poignantly that even white Americans sang it. A couple more wars were fought internationally this time, and people came home determined to make change. So a gospel of civil and human rights was spread along with many variations on the blues, including gospel blues. Massive incarceration was the response of the empire. Black Americans responded with the judgment of hip-hop and rap, which flowed into the world music that the blues had created. And that is where things stand today. A world calling out for Jubilee unconditionally. The biblical Jubilee, like all scriptures, has got conditions on it for the specific people, culture, and language it was revealed to. Removing the conditions reveals striking similarities with other cultures and religions. So it behooves us as a church and fellowship of all peoples in the tradition of Howard Thurman's writings to do that. Once you remove the conditions, you can find similar practices and prohibitions in Islam, in Babylon, in ancient Egypt, and in the early Catholic Church, to name a few. The concept of Jubilee, however, retains in our language a positive lifestyle practice, instead of just a negative prohibition of using it, for instance. The Bible, particularly the Old Testament, was written for the Israelites, the children of Israel. So in being promoted as a book for everyone, the Bible effectively invites everyone to become Israelites, children of Israel. So everyone becomes, before God and God's land, as the children of Israel. The Jubilee verses, on the one hand, tell the children of Israel, the land is mine, God's, and you reside in my land as foreigners and strangers, as sojourners. In indigenous nature traditions, on the other hand, human sojourners are orally integrated verbally balanced into the earth, the flora, and the fauna. Still, such sojourners in either case are to be dealt with kindly, compassionately, and givingly, and they are to care for the land. So an unconditional jubilee offers a written balance in human affairs, but also with respect to the earth. The key pieces are that the land, the earth, actually belongs to God. 2, the farmland must lie fallow regularly to regenerate. 3, do not charge interest on loans. 4, freely enslave and do not enslave, and forgive debts. In one of the passages from Leviticus 25, I have removed some of the conditions. I have kept the references to the Israelites and simply interpreted it as a reference to all people. I have replaced references to Egypt in the biblical stories with bracketed references to empire. And it goes like this. Count off 7 Sabbath years, 7 times 7 years, so that the 7 Sabbath years amount to a period of 49 years. Then have the trumpet sounded everywhere on the 10th day of the 7th month, on the Day of Atonement. Sound the trumpet throughout the land. Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you is to return to your family property and to your own clan. The 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. Do not sow and do not reap what grows of itself, or harvest the untended vines. For it is a jubilee, and it is to be holy for you. Eat only what is taken directly from the fields. In this year of jubilee, everyone is to return to their property. The land must not be sold permanently, because the land is mine, and you reside in my land as foreigners and strangers. Throughout the land that you hold as a possession, you must provide for the redemption of the land. And when we drive through the cities and see all the homelessness, we wonder, if any of your fellow Israelites become poor and unable to support themselves among you, help them as you would a foreigner or a stranger, so they can continue to live among you. Do not take interest or any profit from them, but fear your God, so that they may continue to live among you. You must not lend them money at interest or sell them food at profit. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of empire to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. If any of your fellow Israelites become poor and sell themselves to you, do not make them work as slaves. They are to be treated as hired workers and temporary residents among you. They are to work for you until the year of Jubilee. Then they and their children are to be released, and they will go back to their own clans and to the property of their ancestors. Because the Israelites are my servants, whom I brought out of empire. They must not be sold as slaves. Do not rule over them ruthlessly, but fear your God. The 50-year cycle seems long. Catholicism has one every 25 years, and this year, 2025, is one. It's a jubilee. A passage in Deuteronomy schedules a debt cancellation every 7 years. Again, in 18th century BC Mesopotamia, Hammurabi is said to have canceled debt and restored the rights of serfs every 10 years or so during his 42-year reign as king of Babylon. So the principle is the thing. It would do away with massive incarceration. Interpreting the word Israelites and Palestinians as well, for that matter, as humans who have learned to love themselves and their neighbors unconditionally, would do away with the current situation in Gaza. Considering the crises of the current hour, this then becomes the vow of my ordination. To pray for, promote, work for, learn, share, and write for an unconditional jubilee, because I love myself and everyone else is connected to me. To do all of this, with the humble inquisitiveness and clear insightfulness of a child, and the life experience of an old geezer. Justice built economically, life balance of unconditional jubilee that regularly frees the enslaved, forgives the debt, and fallows the farmed earth. To regularly regenerate the fecundity and fertility of community life. I will add along these lines that I'm a grandparent, and the church's membership does not actively include and focus on the generations of my children and their children as literally dying. So a big part of my jubilee work must focus on youth. Do what I can to promote and unleash an unconditional jubilee. Define being free by awakening jubilee. Unconditionally debt and bondage free. And unconditional home for all, renewed regularly by you and by me. On the other side of the world, people are gathering for an annual pilgrimage. This ordination might be thought of as a pilgrimage preparation for me, as I begin a crucially defining life journey. Such is my case for ordination.
Normally we don't sing after the hymn, so that's why we all are trying for wondering. So the hymn is next on the program, 298, Wake Now My Senses. If you'd like to stand, please stand.